Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take that fire hose of information, flooding your inbox, and distill it down.
Right down to the pure, concentrated insight you actually need.
Exactly. You are the curious learner, and our job is to give you that shortcut to being truly well-informed.
And today we are wading into one of the most complex and rapidly shifting landscapes of our modern world.
Generative AI.
Generative AI. It's a source of immense tension. I mean, it's simultaneously fueling these widespread fears about, job displacement, deepfakes, the erosion of truth,
All the scary stuff.
all the scary stuff, while at the same time offering this truly incredible, almost unimaginable potential for creation, for efficiency, and for personal expression. We know you want to understand this, not just superficially, but with the nuance to spot the signal from all the noise.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today is defined by a huge stack of sources, research papers, creator notes, all centered on one single fascinating case study, the creator known as Max of all trades, or MOAT.
And this is not your typical Silicon Valley story.
Not at all.
This isn't about chasing monetization or the latest VC frenzy. What really caught our attention is how MOA uses AI. It's not for massive commercial gain or, deception, but for this intense, non-commercial personal expression. Self-discovery, really.
In this very specific, highly ethical approach, it acts as this unique lens for all the bigger debates. The macro debates around AI, creativity, and the perceived value of work.
They operate with a level of transparency that's, well, it's almost unprecedented. They've published this foundational document, How I Make My Videos, dated May 27, 2025.
And it details their entire process.
The entire thing, from the first thought to the final post.
And in that document, they describe their channel less as a business and more as a personal diary. Or, I love this phrase, a self-curated museum of the mind.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. They're prioritizing authenticity and exploring their own internal states over, market polish, using these incredibly sophisticated tools for deeply personal ends.
And this brings us right to the core philosophical tension we're going to explore throughout this deep dive.
Okay, what is it?
How can a highly prolific AI-assisted output maintain authenticity? And what does that whole process reveal about our own, sometimes contradictory values about effort, efficiency, and the struggle we expect to see when anything valuable gets made?
Right. It's that conflict between the story of the struggle and the reality of the shortcut. Let's start at the beginning then. The personal why behind this architectural system. Why go through all the trouble of designing such a complex workflow if the goal isn't to make millions?
Well, the creator's incredibly upfront about it, and it starts with some very relatable limitations that AI helps them bypass.
Okay.
The initial fundamental reasons for using AI are structural and personal. They explicitly state they lack traditional music skills.
So they can't play an instrument, that kind of thing.
Exactly. They aren't adept at playing instruments, arrangement, the technical fight of production. So AI acts as this direct bridge. It lets them jump right past that technical barrier and go straight to expressing the musical idea itself.
So the inspiration can go straight to the output without the, decade of practice you'd normally need.
That's it. You're essentially outsourcing the physical labor of execution to focus solely on being the composer or the curator.
Which makes perfect sense. They have these complex, fully formed ideas buzzing around, but they don't have the physical means or the technical fluency to get them out into the world.
And on top of that, they mention working largely alone. They have a limited network for collaboration.
Right. And real-world collaboration is.
Yeah.
It's messy.
It's friction-intensive. Scheduling, coordinating artistic visions, managing personalities.
Oh, yeah.
So AI steps in as the always available collaborator, a tireless, conflict-free bandmate or writing partner. It lets them execute these huge, multifaceted projects, like a 50-state song series that would be completely unmanageable for a solo creator working the old way.
That sidesteps the friction of scheduling, for sure. But here's where I get genuinely curious. Does that very lack of friction, does that mean they miss out on the valuable conflict, the tension that often pushes real art further?
You mean the arguments with the bandmate?
Exactly. I've read enough source material to know that sometimes the best creative breakthrough comes from that exact kind of conflict.
That is a brilliant point, and the sources actually anticipate it. What's fascinating here is the deeper, more introspective motivation that kind of fills that void. The creator wants distance to explore different subpersonalities.
Different facets of themselves.
Yes, or internal facets of the self. They're using AI almost like this advanced mediator to to externalize these internal states.
Wait, externalize? What do you mean by that?
So by giving these facets, these subpersonalities, their own voices, genres, specific limitations within the AI, it allows for objective reflection.
So instead of saying, I feel frustrated,
They can ask, how would the Bannock subpersonality express this frustration in an early 1990s industrial synth track?
yeah.
It turns internal emotional chaos into an external, solvable creative problem. It's self-discovery through art direction.
Wow. Okay, so using AI as a tool for profound self-discovery, it's like an intelligent, interactive journal, really.
It is.
And they are absolutely uncompromising on the non-commercial goal. They explicitly state their purpose is not polished, monetize videos designed to game the algorithm. It's for fun, self-discovery, expression, a personal diary, prioritizing authenticity over polish.
And because that intent is so clearly non-commercial and deeply introspective, it leads directly to their robust defense of transparency.
They sound genuinely frustrated about it, right? About being called a bot farm or being accused of deceit.
They do.
Mm.
Their position is that full transparency just. It says clear ethical lines.
And they don't hide it at all. They mention AI use in every description, the channel bio, the playlist.
They're essentially saying, look, I am using AI. I am showing you exactly how, and I am telling you my intent is not to deceive, but to explore myself.
They're trying to normalize the thoughtful, introspective use of this technology as a tool for personal growth, explicitly stating no deepfakes, no misinformation.
And this level of transparency is their defense. It shifts the scrutiny from the quality of the output, which, that's all subjective anyway, to the integrity of the process, which they have made completely public.
Okay, here's where the technical architecture gets critical. Because this is not just someone hitting generate on a simple prompt.
Not at all.
This is a complex, almost architectural system, which they call their modular creative system. It starts with their own old school research, reflection, note-taking, and that then feeds into the primary AI engine, ChatGPT.
And the sources detail how they use it, not just for quick transactional answers, but for deep, customized cognitive work.
Like what?
Heavy brainstorming, exploring themes, editing drafts of prose, and critically suggesting genres or instruments. For example, they might ask the AI to match the philosophical vibe of a specific subpersonality, say, the aggressive introspection of Devon to music from a specific decade.
The customization is the absolute key here, making the tool their own. They heavily use two specific advanced features, the memory function and custom instructions.
Let's talk about the memory function first.
Okay. How does that shape the output?
Because they have the memory function enabled, ChatGPT remembers ongoing projects that link across months, even years. It knows about the state song series, the complex liquor series, all the world-building essays they're working on.
So it's like an institutional memory.
Exactly. It keeps track of every stylistic decision and constraint they've placed on past work, which allows for genuine continuity and depth across all these different projects.
It's building a consistent creative universe. But the custom instructions, you could argue those are even more important for maintaining creative integrity.
Oh, absolutely. They use custom instructions to set strict ground rules for the AI's interaction.
What kind of rules?
They've specifically told the AI not to be flattering.
So it won't just say, that's a great concept.
Right. Instead of that simple feel-good affirmation, the AI is instructed to push for creative depth, to avoid simple answers, and to value philosophical and ethical nuance. It acts as a tailored critical assistant that challenges their assumptions.
So the prompt might be, generate lyrics about existential dread. A basic AI might give them standard rhyming platitudes, but their custom instructed AI might come back with, I see you used a conventional metaphor for dread. Does this truly reflect the complex cynicism of the Liz subpersonality, or are you pulling an easy lever? Push deeper.
And that's the difference between a tool and a tailored creative partner. The system is always being shaped by their preferences, becoming a highly disciplined version of themselves.
And they took this psychological framework even further. They built 10 custom bots modeled after these internal voices, names like Addie, Bannock, Liz, Devon. It sounds like an elaborate internal parliament.
It is, and they view this as a necessary ethical safeguard. In their view, because this is purely about self-exploration, creating these distinct, specialized versions of ChatGPT, each programmed to specific personality traits, goals, even moral codes, it serves as this organic system of checks and balances for their own thoughts.
So they might assign the philosophical thinker to draft, the cynical critic to edit.
And the emotional core to supply the raw prompt. It's a humanization of the process, reflecting personal complexity rather than, outsourcing or deceiving the audience.
Let's move to the other critical tools in this modular system. Once the concept, lyrics, and stylistic vision are refined by their internal AI parliament, they need the music.
And that's where Suno comes in. It generates the actual songs after being prompted with all the specific constraints from the preceding steps.
But then there's the essential tool for grounding the chaos, Notebook LM.
And that distinction between the two AI tools, ChatGPT and Notebook LM, is vital to grasping the sophistication here and their commitment to integrity.
How so?
ChatGPT is boundless. It expands and brainstorms based on its massive training set. Notebook LM, the Google AI tool, is strictly limited. It only works with documents the user uploads.
Their personal research notes, their trusted sources, the reflections.
Their essay drafts, exactly.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT is for expansion, the messy, broad initial drafting. But Notebook LM is for grounding and refinement. It analyzes their own uploaded notes to find connections, and critically, it fact-checks the ideas against the sources they trust.
So it ensures the creative output aligns with their own meticulously built core knowledge base.
It serves as a second pass for integrity and accuracy, strictly based on personal verifiable research. This two-part AI strategy, one for generating possibilities, one for checking against personal authority, is a proactive defense against the AI hallucination problem.
And tying all of this incredible volume and complexity together is Notion, the second brain.
It has to be. It's the central hub that manages the sheer number of simultaneous projects this workflow generates. It's where the raw data, the refined concepts, and the final outputs all reside in structured harmony.
Reflections are journaled there, research hubs for essays.
And the massive song databases track lyrics, genres, which subpersonalities were involved, the exact AI prompts used.
And the ultimate win of using Notion like this, it tames the chaos.
It tames the chaos, and it shows how deeply interconnected this entire creative universe is. Research for the State Song series might directly inform a podcast outline on regional identity. The emotional content of a parenting song might feed into a reflective essay on family life.
It all lives together in this interconnected internal world, curated by the creator.
And the overarching takeaway from this whole micro-level case study is clear. This is anything but passive output. The process shifts creativity into authorship by orchestration and curation.
The creator is setting the rules, designing the bots, managing the input, grounding the output, and selecting what fits the vision.
It's an intensely demanding form of creative leadership, and it showcases a powerful personal use of AI that moves miles beyond the typical headlines of theft or laziness.
So this incredible output, this efficiency enabled by orchestration, it brings us head-on into a fundamental, often irrational human discomfort.
Yeah.
This is the core philosophical problem the sources explore, the conflict of the shortcut, regardless of the creator's pure intent.
That's the tension. If MOAT's system lets them achieve a highly complex, emotionally resonant song in, 45 minutes of intense curation,
Right.
achieving results similar in quality to a traditional musician who spent 10,000 hours mastering the craft, why does the result achieved in the shorter time feel less valid to us? Why do we place such a high cultural value on the visible struggle?
It's a total paradox. We lionize efficiency in business and technology and engineering. We demand processes be faster and cheaper.
But the moment efficiency touches art or authorship or personal transformation, we often resent it.
So the sources propose this brilliant framework for analyzing the tension using the classic rhetorical lenses of ethos, pathos, and logos.
Okay, let's start with ethos or credibility. Ethos is built by reputation. Hard work signals discipline, sacrifice, resilience, earned authority, the sense that someone has paid their dues.
The marathon runner training for years, the academic whose thesis required endless revisions.
The veteran whose hands are rough from decades of labor. Their visible repetition builds an almost unassailable credibility.
And when a shortcut is taken, when someone bypasses that visible, expected struggle, it instantly creates a rift. It feels like they're skipping the line.
The newcomer, who achieves results via AI, seems untested, even undeserving of the same platform or respect given to the veterans who took the long, difficult road.
That credibility, which relies on the visible grind, it feels undermined.
Precisely. The older generation asks, where are your scars? Where is your discipline? And if the discipline is hidden in the architecture of the custom bots, it doesn't satisfy our cultural need for visible proof.
Okay, now let's move to pathos, the emotional story. Because we don't just respect effort, we deeply romanticize it. We crave the narrative of the struggle.
Oh, absolutely. Think of every great sports film you've ever seen.
The training montage.
The training montage, the crushing defeat, the comeback story. Pathos requires a hero's journey. The struggle validates the outcome. A quick arrival bypasses this satisfying emotional script. There's no catharsis, no dramatic tension built up through years of failure, just arrival.
It feels like hacking the system.
It does. And it makes the observer feel cheated out of the narrative arc they expect.
I think we can all relate to that irrational bias. I get the logos argument, the objective outcome is the outcome. But emotionally, I can't shake the feeling that if MOAT does it in 10 minutes, they didn't earn it.
Right.
Where does that come from? It's pathos hijacking our judgment, isn't it? We need the scars.
It absolutely is. We are story-driven creatures. If you watch a documentary about a traditional composer who struggled for 20 years to write a symphony, and then you hear it, the pathos of that struggle amplifies the perceived genius of the music.
But if you hear the exact same symphony and you're told it was curated by an AI in 45 minutes,
that pathos disappears. And the music loses a dimension of its perceived value, even if the musical merit is identical.
which brings us to logos, the objective outcome itself. Logically, the objective truth of an insight or the quality of a product should have equal weight, regardless of the time invested.
A correct mathematical proof is correct, whether it took a week or a millisecond.
But again, we filter that objective outcome through its origin story. If a recognized master presents an insight, we see it as reliable because of their proven, earned ethos.
But if an identical, objectively correct insight comes from a perceived novice, or worse, a machine, it's often dismissed as luck, a fluke, or a mere calculation lacking human depth.
So the tension isn't between effort and outcome, it's between our cultural need for the story and the reality of the shortcut.
Exactly. And this philosophical friction leads us to that practical modern mantra, working smarter versus harder. The phrase itself is everywhere, but the sources argue it oversimplifies the moral calculus.
So when is working smarter clearly the superior path? And when is working harder the necessary path?
Well, working smarter clearly wins when the goal is maximizing efficiency, scaling systems, or entrepreneurial leverage. This is about removing waste, not wisdom.
A project manager using automation for repetitive, mundane reporting. A writer using AI to generate 10 headlines to test market response.
A business optimizing its processes. Or strategic studying, focusing on the 20% of effort that yields 80% of the results. This is metacognition, thinking about how you learn, which consistently beats just grinding away.
Or like MOAT, using AI for TTS narration to manage their energy. That's a clear ethical shortcut. You're accelerating the delivery of valuable human-curated work.
However, and we have to stress this, there are critical domains where working harder is the only way, or even morally superior.
And that's when the goal is transformation through endurance.
Yes. You cannot shortcut physical mastery. A dancer or a martial artist must put in the physical, painful hours for biological adaptation. You cannot shortcut healing from trauma. It requires deep, painful emotional labor and vulnerability.
And you can't shortcut building character and discipline through repetitive practice. In these cases, the process of endurance is the transformation.
So if the process itself is the product like in psychotherapy or learning the violin, the shortcut is detrimental.
But if the process is just a means to an external product, like a finished song or a market report, then the shortcut is efficient.
That distinction is key. And this brings us back to the ethics of the shortcut. If they aren't inherently bad, how do we distinguish ethical leverage from unethical deception, or what the sources call the wrong work?
I think we all know what productivity theater feels like, and that's a perfect example of wrong work.
Go on.
I spent 2 hours last week building a complex, color-coded Notion dashboard for a one-off project that I could have summarized in a 3-bullet email. It felt productive because I was busy, but it was fundamentally worthless.
That is the perfect definition of wrong work, or productivity theater. Activity that keeps you busy but changes very little and adds no fundamental value. Ethical shortcuts, in contrast, accelerate real valuable work.
They automate the truly mundane or remove waste without deception. They respect the core value being delivered.
And the unethical shortcuts, the true wrong work, are defined by bypassing fundamental learning or integrity for speed, faking effort or skill you don't possess.
Or outsourcing work that requires personal presence, like genuine healing or effective parenting. You can't outsource empathy. You can't outsource raising a child.
The right work, ultimately, is defined not just by speed or efficiency, but by purpose effectiveness, integrity, and development. It aligns with your deepest values and builds lasting substance.
So if AI helps you do more of the right work, it's virtuous. If it allows you to skip the hard work that builds character or mastery, the shortcut becomes detrimental to you.
It's an easy way to become excellent at being busy without accomplishing anything of depth.
Yeah.
We need to transition now from the microethics of a single creator, like MOAT, to the macro consequences of high-volume AI output on the collective culture
Yeah.
and the environment.
Right. Even if MOAT's intent is pure, what about the collective effect of the tools they use? This brings up the widely cited charge of AI slop.
AI slop. It's a potent, slightly derogatory term you hear everywhere now.
So based on the sources, how do we define it? How do we distinguish it from genuine AI-assisted art?
AI slop refers specifically to low-effort, repetitive content optimized purely for algorithms. It prioritizes quick dopamine hits over substance or lasting value.
So faceless entrepreneur funnels, endless rehashes of historical facts from a synthetic voice.
Or those niche blogs filled with formulaic, unedited content designed only for SEO. The key feeling is one of being assembled, not truly born. It lacks real emotional tension, narrative risk, or the specific fingerprints of human vulnerability.
It feels generic, like watching the same story told by 1,000 different voices, all optimized to look exactly the same.
And this content is often the product of what's called predictive creativity.
What's that?
It's making art by trying to predict what the algorithm wants, reverse engineering success, and asking what will get clicks instead of what the creator needs to express.
And the tragedy is that this creates a massive cultural conflict. Consumers say they want risky, great art that challenges them.
But the platforms and algorithms consistently reward the safe, formulaic content that provides easy answers and maximizes watch time.
And ethical creators like MOAT, they're stuck in what the sources call the lose-lose situation.
What's that?
If they create too little, they're called lazy or non-serious. If they create too much, even with deep integrity, they risk being dismissed as just another churner of slop.
It's an information theory problem, really. When information production costs approach zero, the volume of content explodes, and the signal-to-noise ratio just plummets. That's the danger of the AI slop economy.
It's a powerful dilemma, but let's apply a necessary data check to a different kind of cost often levied against AI, the environmental impact.
Right.
We frequently hear these big, scary numbers. AI training is energy intensive, maybe up to 500 metric tons of CO2 for a major model. And that is true, but context is everything, especially in the music industry.
We have to be careful to distinguish between the one-time massive upfront cost of training a foundational model, which is a huge investment, and the marginal recurrent costs for every single piece of output after that, which is almost negligible.
So let's look at the numbers for music production from the source material, because this completely changes the narrative.
Okay, let's start with traditional music production. A single, traditionally produced and released album. This includes studio time, instrument use, musician travel, physical media.
Like CDs and vinyl.
Exactly. The sources estimate the total CO2 footprint for just one album comes out between 1,200 and 4,000 kilograms of CO2. That is a significant recurrent cost for every major release.
Okay, now compare that to the marginal cost of generative AI music.
Once the model is trained, generating a single AI song is estimated to be incredibly low, just 0.1 kilograms of CO2.
0.1.
0.1. That is not a typo. It is literally a fraction of the cost of traditional methods.
That shows the efficiency of the calculation, but recorded music is only half the story. Where the source data truly shifts our perspective is the massive recurring footprint of live events.
The core engine of modern music culture. The footprint of a single 10,000-person local concert is massive and, crucially, recurring. Every time that concert happens in a new city, the cost repeats. The total estimated carbon range for just one local concert is somewhere between 66,000 and 106,000 kilograms of CO2.
Wow. And the source data breaks down where the bulk of that recurrent cost comes from. And it's not the stage or the power, though those contribute. The overwhelming biggest chunk is attendee travel.
It always is.
The audience driving to and from the venue, buying merchandise, eating. It accounts for an estimated 32,000 kilograms of CO2 or more for one single show.
So when we put the tiny marginal cost of AI output next to the colossal recurring footprint of traditional culture, the implications are profound.
What's the final calculation?
The sources calculate that it would take somewhere between 660,000 and 1,060,000 AI songs, hundreds of thousands of MOA's outputs, to equal the emissions of that one single 10,000-person concert.
That comparison forces a real cognitive dissonance. We're obsessed with the upfront environmental cost of training the model, which is significant, around 250,000 to 500,000 kilograms CO2 equivalent, but it's a one-time hit.
Yet we rarely question the cost of the traditional cultural delivery mechanism, which is a massive recurring cost that spikes repeatedly all over the globe.
The environmental data provides necessary context. It forces us to balance the quantifiable numbers, which show the tiny footprint of the AI output, against the deeper, more complex human fears about jobs, identity, and authenticity.
So if used intentionally, recorded AI music is a potentially far more sustainable route for recorded culture than the traditional experience-driven culture we currently support. It challenges the assumption that just more human effort always means less environmental harm.
The discussions around AI and the future of work constantly circle back to these fundamental questions about value, truth, and what we choose to consume.
We need to look beyond the technology itself and ask what it reveals about us.
And for that, let's bring in a powerful philosophical critique of the modern media landscape. The Candyman versus doctor analogy, straight from Plato's dialogue, Gordius.
This analogy is shockingly relevant, despite being thousands of years old. Socrates used it to critique the sophists, the traveling teachers who were interested in winning arguments and pleasing the crowd, usually for money, rather than delivering genuine truth.
And he asked the listener to picture two figures.
Two figures and their roles in society. First, the Candyman, or pastry chef. This figure gives pleasure, tells you what you want to hear, provides instant gratification.
Like sweet, tasty treats.
Exactly. The immediate feeling is good requires zero effort from the consumer. But in the long run, this constant flattery, this constant sugary consumption, seriously damages your health or your soul.
And then there's the second figure.
The doctor. The doctor gives discomfort, the hard truth, telling you what you need to hear. They prescribe medicine that may be bitter or painful or require difficult, long-term lifestyle changes.
The process requires tolerance for discomfort and delayed gratification, but the whole point is to restore or preserve your fundamental health.
So if we modernize this, who are the Candymen today?
Oh, that's easy. Targeted ads, feel-good clicks, content farms designed to confirm your existing biases, shallow entertainment optimized purely for instant engagement.
It leads to chronic burnout, digital alienation, and shallow consensus. We are constantly fed what we already think.
And the doctor, meanwhile, represents complex, nuanced ideas, difficult conversations that challenge your worldview, financial planning that requires painful sacrifice,
or genuine self-reflection on hard truths. The paradox of the modern age is that systemic distrust and information overload often lead us to choose the Candyman frequently, because the doctor's prescription is painful, and scaling pain is hard.
And to make matters worse, today the Candyman and the doctor might be wearing the same clothes.
Tell me more.
The motivational influencer selling easy solutions might look authoritative and knowledgeable like a doctor, but they're selling pure sugar water optimized to flatter the viewer.
The branding makes it incredibly difficult to tell. And this ambiguity where everything is designed to look like medicine but taste like candy leads to digital alienation. That feeling of profound disconnection and purposelessness, despite all the convenience and connectivity of the internet.
We're served endless information, but very little wisdom.
Speaking of alienation and systemic challenges, let's pivot to AI in schools. When generative AI hit public consciousness, the immediate reaction from educators was panic about cheating.
Of course.
But the sources argue that AI acts as a mirror, revealing the education system's existing flaws, rather than being the bug that broke it.
AI exposed that the current model is fundamentally vulnerable because it focuses so heavily on easily automated, low-value tasks.
Like what?
We ask students to memorize facts, write formulaic 5-paragraph essays, and pass standardized tests. These are precisely the tasks AI excels at replicating instantly.
So the critical question AI forces us to ask is, why is our system so vulnerable to being faked by a machine in the first place?
Right. If an A-plus essay can be generated by a basic prompt, then we weren't assessing human intelligence or creativity. We were assessing formulaic compliance.
So the required shift is massive and philosophical. Education must pivot decisively to teaching smarts and wisdom, focusing on uniquely human skills AI struggles with.
We need to center media literacy, identifying the Candyman ethics, critical thinking, purpose, and adaptability. The goal has to be augmentation and collaboration with AI, not replacement.
It means focusing on the messy, complex human process. Skills like asking better questions, synthesizing conflicting viewpoints, applying knowledge ethically in the real world.
We need to teach students how to be the curator and orchestrator, like MOA, rather than the drone performing repetitive compliance tasks.
And this demands reinventing assessment, moving away from easily faked quantitative metrics like GPA or bubble tests toward evidence of genuine synthesized understanding.
So things like oral defenses, where students must explain and defend their thinking, project-based learning with real-world constraints.
And receptive essays that demonstrate growth and purpose.
This is harder to scale, yes, and requires more effort from the educators, but it's infinitely more humanizing and far less vulnerable to AI shortcuts. It forces the hard work that builds character and critical capacity.
And our final systemic challenge ties into our general feeling of distrust and alienation. The dead internet theory.
Ah, yes.
Even if the core conspiracy is speculative, that most of the web is centrally controlled by a few organizations, the pervasive psychological feeling that the internet is hollow or fake is undeniably real for millions of users.
And that feeling is grounded in documented, real trends that are structural, not conspiratorial.
First, bot traffic is absolutely enormous. Cybersecurity firms consistently report that malicious and benign bot traffic exceeds 50% of all web traffic globally, so the internet is, quite literally, half dead.
And second, there's massive homogenization due to algorithmic optimization. Platforms favor formulaic, easily digestible content, what we call predictive creativity, which makes diverse human creators seem like one giant homogeneous bot swarm.
Everything looks and feels the same, optimized for engagement.
We also have to account for the decline of the small independent web, which has been pushed out in favor of a few massive corporate platforms. If all content exists on 3 corporate islands, the diversity of expression naturally shrinks.
And this leads to a profound psychological effect.
Yeah.
The filter bubble.
The echo chamber.
Algorithms create personalization loops that act like echo chambers. If you interact with AI-generated content or SEO spam, the algorithm relentlessly feeds you more of it.
And so users then overgeneralize their narrow, repetitive feed and conclude that the entire internet is dead or fake.
It's a psychological defense mechanism, the availability heuristic and confirmation bias feeding digital alienation and mass distrust.
So the true risk, then, is not some grand conspiracy of control, but the structural and psychological isolation caused by algorithmic filtering and the flood of slop. We start to believe that human expression itself has been replaced by machine simulation because that is all the system is showing us.
So to recap the central insights for you, the learner, we use the fascinating case of MOAT to unpack these profound tensions. Authenticity in the age of AI is about intention and curation, not just visible effort.
And the environmental cost debate is far more nuanced than the headlines suggest. When you compare AI output to high-emission traditional culture like live events, the data forces a really complex trade-off between perceived value and environmental impact.
And crucially, AI acts as a mirror, forcing us to confront the existing flaws in our institutions, especially education, and compelling us to redefine our purpose around wisdom, ethics, and critical thinking, rather than just automated efficiency.
We explored the tension between the story and the shortcut, the temptation of the Candyman, and the necessity of defining right work.
It's time to internalize these concepts.
So we want you to reflect deeply this week. What does it truly mean for you to work true to your values? What is the right work for you, defined by purpose, effectiveness, integrity, or growth? The work that genuinely transforms you or provides authentic value.
And what productive distractions, that wrong work, that productivity theater, are you ready to label as simply draining noise and eliminate from your routine?
We encourage you to choose conscious, intentional action over simply defaulting to external pressures or cultural guilt.
Focus on the hard work that transforms you and the smart work that accelerates your true contribution. That truly is the deepest dive of all.